other things, access to a wealth of information about their communities and how the fire service can continue to support their neighbors and their communities. And that sort of bleeds us into the fire training grant. And the genesis of this really was seeing similar projects find success in communities like Sun Prairie. But the reason why we felt so strongly about trying to expand those efforts was that staffing, particularly for our volunteer departments and our hybrid departments, represent one of the most critical gaps that we're seeing in terms of the ability of the state's fire service to respond to an ever evolving number of risks. And so we wanted to help play a bigger role in helping you all address those gaps. And I think one of the things that we're particularly proud of relative to this program was at the genesis of the program, there's a broad recognition that each community is going to have different needs and different gaps to address. And we wanted to make this program as flexible as possible so that communities could tailor it to their needs in terms of addressing some of the staffing gaps. So I'm sure I could go on and on and on about the job that our team does and about our passion for supporting the work that you do. But I'll stop there, and I'll certainly let our staff kind of lead the charge after this. So thank you for having me for a few minutes here, and just excited to continue this partnership.
Thank you, Secretary Harris, and certainly you deserve all the credit. Without your support and advocacy, we've increased the amount by 50% in this current budget, and without your support, none of that would certainly be possible. So. I'd like to introduce the other speakers here. Actually, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Brad Johnson. I'm the Field Services Bureau Director. We also have our Fire Prevention, Firefighter Health and Safety Section Chief, April Hammond. April?
Hi, I'm April. I'm the Section Chief in the Fire Prevention and Safety and Health Program. I've been with DSPS for about 16 years now. And in the fire service for over 23, currently serving as an assistant chief on a 100% volunteer fire department. So for me, seeing this grant with our organization and our agency here is something really special, and I'm excited to be a part of it for all of us. So it's really cool to see us be able to do it for a third time right now. So thank you, Secretary, for supporting this initiative for our program and for the Fire Service of Wisconsin.
And then the person that writes the checks and makes sure that we're following all the laws, our budget director, Lily. Is Lily still with us?
She's muted.
Oh, okay.
There she is. I use the quick keys this time. I can learn something new. Hi, I'm going to be the person who you might come to with some questions about how to put together your budget, or how to, let's say that you get a grant, which I'm hopeful about, working with you to get your payment for the efforts that you're making on behalf of the fire service. So we are your quote unquote back office, and we'll help you go through all the steps that you need to go to once a grant is announced. Thanks.
Thank you, Lily. And then just a quick introduction for Suamico Fire Chief Joe Bertler. The Howard Suamico, well, actually it was the high school, was a recipient of one of our grants, and they're currently in the process. So Joe is going to be sharing with us a little later in the presentation here about his experiences with the grant and with that program. Joe?
Yes, good morning. Thank you for having me. So Suamico is about 10 minutes north of Green Bay. Just kind of give you, for those that don't know where it is. Been the fire chief here for 3 years, and we, like Brad said, we're the recipient the second round. In Bayport, actually, the high school received the grant. Collaboration effort between Howard Fire Department, Swamco Fire Department, NWTC, and Bayport High School. So just a little side note for everybody. Although it gets me no pull whatsoever, I was one of Brad's bosses in Bellevue when I worked there, so for a few years. So, but it doesn't get me anywhere. So, but just thought I'll throw a side note out there. So, nice to see Brad again.
Thank you, Joe, and thanks for joining us. If we could, Ann, can you take us to the website? I'd like to start the presentation, the technical part of the presentation, by showing you where you can find all of our information as far as the program website and that sort of thing. So from the DSPS website that you're looking at here, click on Programs, A to Z program list. And then we're going to scroll down to the Firefighter Training Grant Program. And this is where all of our information is going to be about the program, all of our forms that you're going to need, important dates, the announcement, the actual application period will begin January 8th. The deadline to receive or to submit your application will be February 5th. And we anticipate by the end of that month, by the end of February, letting everybody know what the results of those awards are. So one by one, I'll go through a couple of the forms here on our website, just to point out a couple of key things, but all of the details are here. So when you have a chance, if you are interested in receiving a grant or learning more about the program, look at these documents here. So Ann, if you could click on the first one, the grant announcement. Okay, and then scroll down to the second page. So what I want to do is let everybody know, because I know that we've had, this is our third round, and we learned a few things during the first couple of rounds, the successes, what could be, what could be adjusted and that sort of thing. So there are some changes this round, and we'll continue to evaluate, whatever lessons we can learn from the recipients and what worked well and that sort of thing. So some of the adjustments that we made is, again, based on the interest that we received in the previous years. There's a 50% increase in funding for each fiscal year. So for this grant application period, the total available funds is $75,000. We broadened the eligibility criteria to include middle and high school aged youth. And the grant is not limited to just training programs or certification programs in preparation for youth to start off and serve in the fire service right away. The eligible entities are now opened up to middle and high schools, and other organizations that can engage and recruit youth, middle school and high school age students, for future careers to serve in the fire service someday. So that could include cadet or explorer programs, which weren't initially eligible in the first two rounds, but we decided to do that. Entities that are not volunteer or combination fire departments will need to collaborate with the volunteer combination fire department. The collaboration requirements that we initially had in the first two rounds aren't necessarily required in this round. Entities that, again, if they are not a volunteer or combination fire department will be required to provide a letter of support or collaborate with a volunteer or a combination fire department. The same is true with career departments. I noticed that there's at least one or two career departments on the call here. You would not be eligible to apply as the lead applicant, but you could collaborate with, let's say, the school system or other volunteer combination departments in your area and put together a program. So with that said, maybe we could continue to move down.
And Brad, I just wanted to jump in and add in the another point of clarification. You said this, but I wanted to kind of draw a sharper, or put it in sharper focus. We required in the previous cycles that the applicants were collaborating with a tech college, a fire department, and a local education institution, and we've eliminated that collaboration requirement for fire departments. So if you're an eligible fire department, you don't have to have a formal collaboration with another entity to be eligible. And that way, that's how some of the cadet and other programs geared toward younger students can become eligible.
Thank you for clarifying that, Deputy. So here are the eligibility requirements, and you can keep scrolling slowly, and then we can move to the grant announcement when we're doing this. Again, this clarifies, this page here clarifies the letters of commitment that are necessary for those entities that are not volunteer or combination fire departments. We do encourage collaboration. If you look at the rubric scoring chart, there are increases in scores for collaboration of multiple organizations. So we want to get the most bang for the buck and make these programs successful. Project costs are listed here. There are eligible project costs. I won't go into details here. That'll be listed more a little further in the presentation. I want to talk a little bit about some of the key points in the announcement here. Eligible lead applicants, the terms of the cost reimbursement. This is a cost reimbursement program, so entities will have to first pay for the eligible costs or invoices, and then submit their invoices along with, I believe, Lily, they need to supply the payment information as well to the DSPS grants email. Is that correct, Lily? Or just the invoices? Well, we can get to that.
Sorry, Brad.
Here we are.
The Zoom is showing up different on my screen. I confirm that the invoices need to have supporting documentation attached to them. So if you purchase something, we would like to see the receipt of that purchase attached to your invoice. As much detail as possible so we don't have to reach back out to you to ask for it.
Okay, thank you. So again, cost reimbursement, we're, the eligible awardees are not given a check right at the beginning of the contract period. You need to pay for whatever you have and then submit for reimbursement later. We do encourage, as I indicated before, partnerships with other fire departments, other entities, with the tech schools as necessary. If you are going to be doing a certified training program. Please note the important dates there. And then if we scroll down to the next page there, please take a look at, and there's further details on our website, but we actually have the grant evaluation rubric and scoring, which indicates which areas of the application are awarded certain points. I will give you a little tip here. You know, when it comes to diversity and equity and that sort of thing, a lot of applicants are missing points there because they don't list anything. They believe that, you know, just because they're not from an inner city or they don't have a lot of minorities, that they may not qualify. But look at other areas like attracting females into the fire service. What can you do to, you know, look at being more inclusive with everybody that might be interested in a service in the fire service, or a career in the fire service. So think about those things with your application as well. Okay, I think we can probably move on to the application from here, but I will leave a lot of the details in the documents here for you to read later on. Let's move to the application. So starting January 8th, you can start submitting applications with all supporting documentation that may be necessary to that email address, dspsgrants@wisconsin.gov, and submit those no later than February 5th. So the project overview, again, that's just a quick overview, project start and end date. Many times that will be through a school year. So planning ahead, oftentimes we're looking at starting next fall with an end date no later than you know, May of 2025 would basically be what we're looking at. So I encourage you to submit, again, if you're a recipient of one of the grants, submit your invoices as soon as possible. Our fiscal folks like to close that stuff out before the end of our fiscal year, which starts July 1st, ends at the end of June. So that helps us out by submitting that stuff. Project director, in the next box here, should be somebody with authority from your organization to submit a grant, whether it be a fire chief, a principal, somebody with you know, in a position of authority that can you know, basically speak for that organization and that sort of thing. Fiscal agent is real important. That's going to be who's going to be in charge of receiving the monies here. Usually that's going to be a treasurer or a municipal clerk, something along those lines. But again, another position of authority with respect to the actual monetary end of things. Is there anything, Lily, that you want to add to that?
Thank you, Brad. I think it's very, very important as you're preparing your grant that you think success and that you're going to get awarded this grant. So in thinking through how it's going to work when you get it awarded, who is going to be the person who's going to negotiate the contract and sign the contract? Who is going to be the person who is going to be responsible for putting together invoices? Where are the funds going to go? What bank account are these funds going to go into? And think about all of the different phases of the fiscal side of this as you're applying, because if you do get the award, you do not want to be figuring this out after you've been awarded this grant. You really want to be able to hit the ground running and get all of that back office stuff done as quickly as possible. Back to you, Brad.
Yeah, thank you, Lily. So, Ann, let's scroll down to the next page. The next page is going to be the budget information. This is going to be where you're going to list or itemize the areas where you're going to seek reimbursement up to $25,000 as part of the grant. And then, following in the rest of the page, they're just providing additional details for each one of those itemized areas. And again, eligible expenses are going to be listed, and we're going to cover that real quickly after the application here in the next attachment. But let's move to the next page. Well, actually, the next page, project proposal. This is where, for the non-fiscal people, this is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. This is where you're going to describe the nature of the project, how you're going to recruit students or youth, that is, and how the program is going to operate. So all of those details are going to be here. And this is where, again, you want to be as inclusive as possible. Take a look at the rubric scoring evaluation sheet and really target the applicable areas in this section of your application, because this is where we're going to be rating your grant proposal against other proposals. So if we could just continue here, and I think for the most part, this is all self-explanatory. Box 3 here is only if it's kind of like if you're going to be offering high school or college credits for the firefighter training in rounds 1 and 2. That was important because we were looking at more training certification programs, and again, the eligibility requirements and what we're targeting here has been broadened a little bit. So you may or may not have information there to include. If you could keep scrolling, and again, make sure that all of your items there's a checklist. Make sure that all of your items are listed in along with your application. We hate to disqualify an application because they don't have all of the information, but when all things created equal, we do have to take a look at that as well. So make sure that everything is submitted at the time that before February 5th. And again, sorry, a question just came in. The application period starts January 8th. Okay, and make sure that you've got a signature at the back on this page here, the appropriate people. And now we can move to attachment A, please. And this is the last item that I'm going to go through. Here, there's just a lot of information in this attachment on eligible items and other details that were not included in the application. So again, budget stuff gives you some clues as far as what is eligible to seek reimbursement for and what isn't. If there's anytime that you have a question about what would be covered or what wouldn't be covered, feel free to reach out to April or myself. I'll give you my phone number at the end of this presentation here if you do have any questions. So from here, I'd like to turn things over to Swamico Fire Chief Joe Bertler, who received a grant, as he said, in the last round, and he's going to share his experience.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate it. So just kind of give you a little background. Like I said, started off, we're about 10 minutes north of Green Bay, and I've been the fire chief here for about 3 years. So when I started here, we were at about 30 firefighters. We're a combination department, and our allotment's up to 41. So we were down personnel like a lot of other fire departments out there. So obviously looking at ways to recruit. So we attended a career fair at Bayport High School, and honestly didn't have high expectations. Figured, it's probably a waste of our time. Went there though, set up a booth, and was surprised on the interest that high schoolers have in firefighting. Just surprised. So we actually ended up hiring 2 of them from that career fair onto our department. And was like, man, if there's just a way we could somehow get these high schoolers involved earlier, it'd be awesome. So next thing you know, this grant appears, right? And we're like, so we worked with the Village of Howard Fire Department and Bayport High School, the Howard School District, obviously us, and then Northeast Wisconsin Technical College, and like, hey, we did this career fair. There was so much interest in firefighting at the high school level. Like, let's apply for this grant. So we did. We got, kind of met as a team with NWTC, Village of Howard, us, and then Bayport, and applied for the grant and received it last year. So, and I just want to talk before I forget, when Brad talked about diversity, what was interesting to me is that who was actually really interested in was actually females. Right now, we're a fully staffed department, and we have 8 female firefighters on the department, and most of them are from the high school program. So you talk about diversity and not, so you're not the inner city, but attracting females. It was eye-opening to see how many females are interested in firefighting. So like I said, we were awarded the grant. We used most of the money for PPE. We just didn't have enough turnout gear to supply the students, and we actually ended up having 16 students apply for, or 16 students in the program the first year. So we used the next career fair to kind of attract those students, because obviously we didn't know. We applied for the grant after the first career fair. So the second career fair went there and used that as an opportunity to say, hey, this program's starting up this year, that you can, learn to be a firefighter at the high school. So a few things with our program. Like I said, we use we got about 25,000, I think, just under that. We use it for PPE. We did reach out to a local medical facility to we did medical evaluations on everybody. So they had a physical. Every student had a physical. We reached out to our air pack supplier, Interspiro, and they donated 12 air packs. So it's just other equipment that you like, hey, it's just, you may need to think about as well. It's, air packs and turnout gear, and they needed gear bags to kind of bring gear, and then somewhere to store the gear, because obviously you want to contaminate. So a lot of things you got to think about of how logistics of the program, I guess. So trying to think what else we did. So yeah, like I said, the first year we ran it starting this fall. We had 16 students. And honestly, they were great. We set expectations early. I mean, they are high schoolers. They don't like to read. They don't like to sometimes always show up for class, but we kind of went in there day one and said, look, this is different than a high school class. You need to read the book in order to pass the state written exam. So one thing we did was set the expectation up early. We had a meeting before the start of school with the parents and saying, this is what all entails. They're going to see live fire. They're going to do physical work at the high school. It's not gym class. There is a risk of a little injury, but no one got injured, which was great. So it was a huge success. Everybody passed the practical portion. About 40% passed the written, but most of them that didn't pass were 1 or 2 off. And I consider that a great success rate. I mean, I know it would have been nice if everybody passed the written, but it is a tough test. Like I said, most of them were past the hazmat portion of it. Just they were 1 or 2 away from the actual written on the fire part of it. So, but everybody passed the practical portion of it, which was great. So the only, and I spoke with Brad a little bit earlier on this year, the only downfall is it is a time commitment. There is a lot of work that is involved from the fire department and the school district and the technical college. Unfortunately, this year, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but we had NWTC pull out. It was just too much of a time commitment for them, because we had the program. It was from 7:30 to 9 o'clock every day. It was just tough for them to commit an instructor every day to go to the high school, because we had our program at the local high school. So, but we love it. We want to continue it. We have even a greater interest this year. We just got to make sure that we can perform the logistics, because this is a lot of work. So we need to have an instructor now from that's not affiliated with NWTC. So I'm not sure if you want to wait for questions, but like I said, we found success. We're now fully staffed because of this program. We are one of the success stories, and like I said, we have a wait list, which is kind of unheard of. But it's credit to this grant, this program, because we had so many high school students. We actually hired from that, not because they're 18, we hired 4 more additional high schoolers this year. So and people want to get on. We have, what's nice is we had some 16, 17, 18-year-olds. So we know that the 17 and 18-year-olds in like one or two more years will be joining our department. So we couldn't be more than happier with it. I think you're
Brad,
muted.
you're muted.
Oh.
There we go. Sorry about that. Joel, thank you for sharing your story. I did ask you to come on because, I was aware of the success story that you had with, as far as, having a wait list on your department, which is the first time in many, many years.
Mhm.
And what your story is exactly, and some of the things that you did as far as trying to recruit students into the program is I think something that, is a great example for other departments in the state as far as how you've sought out youth and and what you've accomplished. If we can get this around the state, we can help solve some of what many of the struggles that volunteer departments are having around the state right now. So recruiting, retention is a big issue, as everybody knows, in the fire service. So I'm preaching to the choir. But this is again just a great story on how this grant can be used to help out your department for many years to come. I will add that one of our first round grant recipients, Western Technical College, received an award from us, and on top of that, they were able to use that award to gain an additional $200,000 in funding from other sources to expand their program. So it just snowballed and really grew into a regional thing in that area. So we had them, indicate they were a speaker in our last virtual event as well. So they shared that story. So thank you, Joe. At this time, we'll open it up to questions. If you have a question, you can either raise your hand or type it in the chat button below, and we'll respond to those. So are there any questions? Okay, we have Theodore Westler. Can we unmute Theodore? Oh, there we go.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, we can hear you.
I'm with the Milwaukee Fire Department, which is a completely full-time fire department, and we do have programs for recruiting in high schools. We have a cadet program and all that. And listening to what you were saying in the beginning, it sounds like this grant is not available for us unless we collaborated with someone like MPS or technical college. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, that would be correct. You can't be you aren't eligible as the lead applicant, but you can certainly participate in a program in collaboration with another, probably down in that area. I know that you have some combination departments surrounding Milwaukee. You could collaborate with them on a program. In conjunction with schools if you wanted to.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. did see a couple of other hands pop up.
Yeah, Dennis Graff had his hand up for a bit. I've lost him on my screen too, though.
Thank you. Your question was answered.
Okay, thank you. So Brad, while we're waiting for other questions from our group, can you kind of remind us what Brad or April, what eligible expenses are? So what can the grant pay for?
Okay, absolutely. Anne, can you bring up attachment A?
I know you went through this, Brad, but I know the last couple grant cycles, we did get continued questions about eligible expenses.
Yep. So some of the most of the grant applicants in the past applied for grants for PPE, properly fitting PPE. As everybody knows, high school students are probably have a little different body types, as well as, females and that sort of thing. So having properly fitting gear is very important to protect them in the fire environment. So that's where most of them went for. You can apply for grants for, again, attachment A. If we have that up, we'll include more examples, but books, if you have travel for instructors, things that aren't covered ordinarily by 2% fire dues or other funding sources, budget development, training delivery, things like that. Outreach and student recruitment is another one. And then there's a chart down at the bottom that gives examples. Transportation of students, if you have to transport students from, let's say, a high school or middle school to a training tower or training facilities, or field trips, that sort of thing. But this is a pretty good list of things at the bottom of attachment A that gives some examples of items like training props, like I said, instructor travel expenses, PPE, fit test, medical evaluations, SCBA, that sort of thing. Things that we would not be awarding grants for would be monetary awards for the students, or completion awards, swag like t-shirts, uniforms, that kind of thing, pagers or radios, things that would be covered by 2% fire dues, or any kind of specialty training that would be outside of the curriculum, let's say, of normal firefighting, whether it's entry level or fire 1 or 2, whatever your application would is seeking to accomplish at that time.
Brett, if I could just jump in, one thing that we kind of learned through this whole program as well is that obviously the Fire 1 program with NWTC teaching it went from basically September to middle of December when their state practical was, and written exams. So they were kind of, TC was done obviously after that point. So we filled their rest of their semester, which ends in like the middle of January, with like having the DNR come in for the classroom, having the state fire marshal's office come in. In fact, this week, even on our Facebook page, we posted that we were teaching them ice water rescue classes. So kind of filling those gaps, because if you are doing the Fire 1 program, there is a time frame from when that state test is done, and they still may need to be in high school for a few more weeks. So just kind of filling that time gap of with your fire department and giving some other opportunities to learn from, I guess. So just wanted to kind of throw it out there, because there is a time when the state test needs to be done by. So
and thank you for bringing that up. That did prompt another item that I wanted to clarify here. I think in rounds 1 and 2, we may have been pushing for certification at the end of the period based on the results, the number of students that didn't necessarily pass. You know, the Swamico's example, I should say Bayport High School's example of the number of students that didn't pass and that sort of thing is not unusual. It's basically what we saw statewide, which is why we adjusted things a little bit. So it is up to you as the applicant if you want to push for Fire One, you know, or if you want to slow it down a little bit and look at entry level firefighting, you know, in the schools. So we're not pushing so much at the students at that time. They, you know, a lot of them have sports and other things going on. So again, it's up to you. We'll certainly entertain that. Not discouraging you from looking at Fire One and you know, certification from the get-go, but it's just certainly you know, one of the things based on you know, what transpired and what happened, what the results were with the other grant recipients. It's something for you to consider. So
I think, Brad, to add to that, in looking at the rubrics and the scoring, you'll see how things can be scored or graded a little bit differently dependent on what your curriculum is or what your plans are for your project too. And that's also kind of how we considered expanding it and allowing for different types of projects and different types of programs and different types of age groups, and looking at the middle school and the different youth ranges, and considering what does the youth firefighter program need to look like? What does the grant need to look like? What is the intent of all of this? And it is to get our youth interested in the fire service and wanting to become members of the fire service and get jobs in the fire service where they want to volunteer and then maybe someday become a part-time firefighter or even a career firefighter. But that starts with getting involved in the fire service from the get-go at a young age, whether it's in middle school or high school. And so when we started looking at it at this third round, it was expanding it, offering more opportunity and a little bit more flexibility with the grant. So you'll see as you look at when you're starting to come up with your project ideas, look at the rubric and see where you'll get your points. Examine how you want to build your project, what you want your curriculum to be, and really focus on your training program. What is your training program going to be? Is it going to be a firefighter for a day program at your volunteer fire department? Are you going to work with your high school for a curriculum-based program like an entry-level class? Or are you going to go full-blown certification with high school students? You have more opportunity right now with the expansion of this program to do a lot of different things. And it's opened to camps that can work with fire departments. So I'm really excited about what we're doing right now with this expansion for Wisconsin and our fire service. So it's a really exciting opportunity, even for our career fire departments that can partner with our volunteer fire departments. So don't think that there's not opportunity for you there to really partner with all different fire service stakeholders. So just wanted to add that in there.
And you know, that's a good thought, April. The other thing that I want to add here is that even if you aren't eligible this round, we're continuously evaluating the needs, what's worked, what isn't. How can we continue to engage youth? So continue to follow you know, this program in the future. And perhaps the eligibility requirements will change, and you might be eligible in the future for whatever you want to design. I do have another question here as far as history from prior years about how much was requested versus how much was funded in this go around. I can't off the top of my head indicate how much was requested. I know it was 6 figures in the past. Typically, we get about 12 to 15 applicants, at least in the first 2 rounds. Again, this is the third round, so this is a fairly new program yet. So, so hopefully that has answered that question to the best of my ability anyway. I see Pete Fletty has raised his hand. We could unmute Pete.
Can you hear me? All
And
right.
Pete, as
Sounds
soon
like
as you're unmuted, feel free to start talking.
I'm assuming you can hear me. April is nodding her head. All right. A little bit of a gray area. We're already working with high school and technical college. We do have a program established. However, we do struggle with gear and outfitting them with SCBAs. Seeing we already have a program started, I didn't know if there was gray area in procurement of SCBAs or PPE based on the fact that our program is already up and running. But we do struggle in the area of equipment. Will we be eligible for the grant just for equipment?
Absolutely, Pete.
Okay.
You know, as long as you meet the eligibility requirements, your volunteer or combination fire department, that, you know, those are eligible expenses, and certainly we want to try to help, you know, your whatever existing program you have become more successful.
Very good. Thank you very much.
And to your point, and to what Brad said earlier, you know, we obviously have some extra turnout gear, but like Brad stated earlier, especially the females, it is what it is. I mean, they typically are smaller, and we just didn't have that much small gear to fit them, and you want to obviously have them properly fitted. So that was what we used it for, is typically the smaller gear. We knew we could fit the larger individuals. It just was the especially the females that were more petite. We just didn't have any gear for them, so that's what we used it for.
Right. We found ourselves pulling SCBAs off trucks that are typically in service and things like that during class, and that's where we tend to struggle a little bit. You know, as far as it's more the equipment part of it. But yeah, I appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Yeah, and just make sure that equipment again is used for the program and not for your department's purposes. Because, you know, we haven't audited yet, but it may happen. We're looking at that. So, you know, we want to make sure that the funds are being used for the right purposes or for the intended purpose of the grant program.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
So Brad, I know you probably have your eye on the clock, but it's 11:51. So I just wanted to let the group know that we have about 8 or 9 minutes left for any lingering questions. And Pete, I know your hand is still up, but I think that you probably have your question answered, so I'm not going to call on you again. And we don't have to stay till the bitter end. If everyone thinks that they have their questions answered or just need some time to ponder and might follow up with Brad and April later, that's fine too. I know sometimes things come to me as soon as I click leave, and I wish I had asked one more thing or said one more thing. So yeah, I think Brad, if you know, it's been pretty quiet. So do you want to just wrap things up and we'll let people go?
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you, Deputy. You know, I want to thank everybody for joining us again. This has been a very exciting program for our agency, exciting times, and exciting for the fire service too. I know that there's been really a pent-up need for something like this, and we're really excited and happy to see these excellent results previously. So you know, I want to leave my phone number, and that is 920-492-5605. If you have any questions, and if I can't answer them, if it's more of a funding or fiscal related question, I'll funnel that to the appropriate person. The other, April, do you want to leave your phone number as well in the chat?
Sure. Otherwise, I'll just quick say it too. It's 608-225-6593.
Thank you, April. well, let me see, awarded to only one age or split couple. Okay. Question here, quickly came in. What is the total funding of the grant? Each grant can apply for up to $25,000. And in the past, the first two rounds, we had $50,000 eligible. This go around, we have $75,000 available this round. And when we do the next round, which will be in about a year from now, I believe, it'll be another $75,000 is eligible for that grant application period as well. So up to 25,000 each, for a total of we're allowed to spend 75,000 towards this program. And here it is awarded to only one agency or split with a couple. Not exactly sure how that would be. I mean, I guess it depends on, you know, how the fiscal agent, you know, how it's handled, as far as from the fiscal end, but things should be paid for, and then we would reimburse the applicant for those expenses.
Yeah, so I think, Brad, I can't see the question because it seems they're going directly to you. But whoever paid, whichever partner paid for whatever the item is, they would be the one who is reimbursed. And then I wanted to just elaborate a little bit. The previous grant cycles, we had a total of $50,000 to award, and this is the governor expanded that amount in this budget, so by 50%. So we have that's why we have $75,000 to award each time instead of 50. So the governor saw some success here and really wanted to support its expansion.
Okay, so feel free to reach out to April or myself. And again, if it's more of a fiscal related question, we'll funnel those through Lily and her staff to get those answered for you. But again, you know, you've got a couple of weeks to think about this, and make sure you have, you know, you can begin submitting applications to that email address, DSPS grants, you know, on January 8th, but applications are due February 5th. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, I'll thank you for attending. There will be a copy of this recording on our website with, you know, by the end of the week. And we'll leave it there. Thank you for attending. And
Thanks,
thank you
everyone.
for participating, all the speakers.